So last week I sort of introduced a new project, which is the idea of looking towards the light source, so painting into the light. And there's a couple of books here with different examples. So I'll just do a very quick recap. That's one book to have a look at. There's a couple of others here if you wanted some examples of those kinds of. In fact, I'll just show a couple. There's one typical one here. So this sort of thing where the light source would be sort of back here. A lot of the objects are thrown into shadow, so it's almost like silhouetted. And sometimes you'll get things like little bits of light reflecting on surfaces such as water and things like that. So that's quite a good example of that, and that'll be another kind of example of that kind of painting. So I thought I'd use this photograph that I took in Lee, just going down the steps in January, and the sun was just coming up. So that was the original photo, and I decided to get rid of the lamppost, and in the end I just cropped it down quite a bit. So that is basically a cropped version of the middle part. So that's how far I've got. What I then did last week in terms of the demo was I did a little bit on this one. So that was actually my demo from last week, but I decided to just start again on Tuesday. So with my Tuesday groups, I basically washed in most of all this. So this is water mixable oil paints. Sometimes I work like this, sometimes I'll sort of paint like an underpainting in light and dark, or sometimes it's light and dark, sometimes it's colour. In this case I wanted to use white canvas so that all the yellows were nice and bright and glowed. Sometimes when I've painted over a darker surface, I normally like a grey surface to paint on, but it's hard to get all the sort of glowing yellow colours and things like that. So for that reason, I've worked on a white canvas with this one. But it does mean that I needed some underpainting on some of the darker areas. So that's what I did. Just basically last session I just do a little bit more. Just very thin paint, water mixable oil paints this is. And just really painting, the first layer is painting it a bit like watercolours. So it's just sort of very thin like that. Just almost like a wash of colour, just to kind of get rid of the white of the canvas. But once I've got to that stage, I then use a bit more stronger consistency. So what I've started to do here is starting the background, so walking background to foreground. I've got some yellow in here this morning, a bit stronger yellow, so I'll just carry that on a little bit here. And now I'll either use the paint, the consistency it comes out the tube, or I would just thin it with a little bit of painting medium. So painting medium is a mixture of linseed oil and some sort of thinners. And that just helps the paint to flow a little bit, but still keeping the strength of the paint and the consistency. So just to get that a little bit darker on that side, I'd already put this yellow here. And that's about the strength of paint I need. It doesn't have to be any thicker than that, really. Do a bit more yellow in here, so I'll just go with a warm yellow just in between here, up to where the sunrise would be. So it's much easier to get the background colours in first, and then work forward from there. This is a cadmium yellow with just a little bit of cadmium orange mixed in. And then I then carry that onto there. And then when it comes to painting the tree, around where the sun is peeking through, it sort of has that impression of the colours flaring out a little bit. So I'm going to paint them lighter around here, and hopefully that'll give it a sense of, a bit of a glowing feeling. So I'm going to use mix an orangey colour to start with, and obviously just blend it out a little bit. So we keep it fairly light, just around where the sun would be. And then as I move out, that can be a stronger stronger sort of colour. Sometimes slightly exaggerate it, slightly emphasise that. Then as I'm moving out, I'll add a little bit more red and a little bit of brown in with the mix. I'll probably go to a bigger brush now, but this one will do for a minute. So just gradually getting a little bit darker, slightly stronger colours and tones. That might be a bit too quick. Let's come a bit lighter again. Yeah, I think I'll keep it a little bit lighter to start with. So hopefully that gives the impression of the light sort of flaring. So basically I'll keep going. The next stage might be to paint, once I've got some of the tree over the sky, or I could even perhaps paint the mud flats next. That might have been a better option. So I've got a brush that I can do. Yeah, I started mixing a pale warm grey, that bit, so let's just try that on there. Just, again, thin that a little bit, maybe a tiny bit more white. I'll use this bit card as a straight edge, get a nice sharp edge there. And really this bit here, where the light is reflecting, I'll go back to the yellow brushes and just put some yellow over the top of that. So again, just so that kind of melts in with that. And do the same sort of thing here, and then gradually work forward. So just a little bit on water mixable oils, and I quite like these. I like oils as a medium. It means that I can get softer blends as well as leaving sort of, leaving direct marks sort of thing. So that's a medium that suits me. Good. Any questions?
No, it's good.
Lovely.
Okay, right, I'll let you crack on.